either fat, carbohydrates, or protein. That's it. That's the only 3 ways that you can consume calories. So the most important out of those macronutrients is... What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about the only 3 things you need to know to get in shape. Now, to be specific, I mean a good shape. A shape that you like. A shape that you're probably thinking about when you think of a fit person. A shape that is quite muscular and also quite lean and quite toned at the same time. That is what is ideal for health. A relatively low body fat percentage and a good amount of musculature. So that is the specific shape that we're going to be talking about in this video. And I'm going to be telling you the only 3 things you need to know to get into a good shape. Now, I am somebody who myself is in that shape, but I also went to university for kinesiology, so I do have an academic background on this topic. So let's get right into it. The first thing you need to know is how to count calories. There's 2 ways that you need to learn how to count calories. Calories in and calories out. You need to know how to count both of those. Calories out versus calories in. That is what determines weight loss or weight gain. So what do I mean by that? By calories in, I mean the amount of calories that you're consuming through food and beverages. Now, most of the time, you can count calories simply by adding up the calories that's on the nutrition label. A lot of foods have a nutrition label. If you're buying produce, you could just Google how many calories is in one apple. And you just need to be able to know how to add up those calories throughout the day to know how many calories you are putting into your body, how many calories you're consuming throughout one day. So one thing I will say to watch out for when you're counting calories is, let's say you're eating a bag of chips. On the nutrition label, you see the bag of chips says 220 calories. So you think, okay, this bag of chips is 220 calories. But you have to look at how much that's for. So it's not actually 220 calories for the full bag of potato chips. It's only 220 calories for 50 grams. That's an example. Instead, the bag is 250 grams. So don't think that you're eating only 220 calories if you eat that whole bag. Realistically, you're eating 5 times that amount. You're eating over 1,000 calories. So just watch out for that. A lot of times that can throw a fork in the spokes of how we count our calories. And that can be a mistake that we're not aware of. So just watch out for that when you're counting your calories using nutrition labels. So that's calories in. Now let's talk about counting calories out. By that I mean how many calories you are expending throughout your day. Now, a lot of people might not know this, but calorie is just another word for energy. And it is a unit for an amount of energy. So we consume energy through food, and we expend energy just by being alive and also by exercising. So to calculate how many calories out, how many calories you're expending in a day, all you got to do is pull up a calculator online. The work here is already done for you. Pull up a calorie expenditure calculator. One that I pulled up is called tdeecalculator.net. All you got to do is punch in your age, your gender, your weight, your height, and how much you exercise. Oh, and also your body fat percentage. Now that is going to be the only number that you're not actually going to know. So to know that, you can just Google, whatever, if you're a male or a female, male body fat percentages, and it'll go Google images and it'll show you pictures, and you can kind of get an idea of what your body fat percentage is. Sometimes digital scales will tell you, but those aren't very accurate. I'm not saying that looking at Google images is going to be any more accurate, but it'll give you a decent idea, a rough estimate, if you will. So once you get that, you can go ahead and punch that in, and it'll tell you how many calories you need per day to maintain your weight. Now, if you're wanting to lose weight, if you're somebody who's overweight and you're wanting to lose weight, all you have to do is take that number that the calculator gives you and subtract 400 or 500. And that is the amount of calories that you are going to be wanting to eat per day. calories out versus calories in, right? That is what determines weight loss or weight gain. Now, what those calories are made of, either fat, protein, or carbs, is going to affect your body composition, but that's going to be point number 2, so we're not going to get into that right now. As far as sheer weight goes, it's all about calories in versus calories out. So, calories out, if calories out is 3,000, that is for somebody, in the example that I just punched in here, if you're 35 years old, you're a male, you're 200 pounds, you're 6 feet tall, you exercise 3 to 5 times a week, and you are 20% body fat. Those are all the numbers that your calorie expenditure calculator will want to know. Then for that individual that I just listed in that example, they will be burning 3,000 calories a day. So if that person wants to lose weight, all they have to do is count their calories and make sure they are under 3,000 calories a day. Now, you don't want to be like 1,000 or 2,000 calories below that number. You will lose weight quicker, but in a very unhealthy way. That's going to give your body some complications. You're probably going to get sick. The most I recommend is being in like a 500 calorie deficit to lose weight in a healthy way. That is going to be okay on your body. So if this individual wants to lose weight, all they got to do is eat 2,500 calories per day, and they will lose 1 pound per week, because 3,500 calories equates to 1 pound. So that's 1 pound per week that they'll be losing if they're in a 500 calorie deficit per day. If this is confusing to you, try to take a second and wrap your head around the math in this slide, and you could play around with different numbers. It is worth noting, though, that if you're consistently eating less calories than your body is used to, eventually your metabolism might start to slow down. So it's important that you at least keep your exercise levels where they already are, if not up them at least a little bit. But as you're going to see as this video goes on, it is in your best interest to gain some muscle mass and to do some resistance training to find the best results here. All right, point number 2. The second out of 3 of the only things you need to know to get into shape is how to count your protein. So macronutrients, so you can get calories in 3 different forms, either fat, carbohydrates, or protein. That's it. That's the only 3 ways that you can consume calories. So the most important out of those macronutrients is protein when it comes to getting into shape. Protein is what is going to build your muscle mass. Okay? So carbohydrates can be converted into fat that you store on your body. Fat can obviously be stored as fat on your body. But protein is going to be stored as muscle mass, especially if you're exercising and stimulating your muscles. But we'll get to that later. So you need to know how to get enough protein. So how much protein is enough protein? If you are somebody who is going to be exercising regularly, then you probably want to aim for 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. If you are going to be more sedentary, you probably want at least 0.75 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So you can go ahead and do that calculation for yourself. Now, this is a topic that has a lot of controversy. You can go ahead and review literature yourself, but those are just some numbers that I'm going to recommend. You can agree with me or you can disagree with me, but about 40% of Americans aren't getting enough protein. So I would say you should at least be getting 0.75 grams per pound of body weight if you are rather sedentary and not that active. And if you are pretty active and you're lifting weights pretty regularly, then you should be getting 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Now, the reason that's so important is because if you're not getting enough protein, you're not going to be able to develop muscle. Your muscles are going to weaken, especially as you age. Even if you're not somebody who lifts weights, eating enough protein will maintain a decent amount of muscle mass on your frame, as opposed to if you're not eating enough protein, your muscle mass will deplete quite rapidly. And the reason that's so important is because the more muscle mass you have on you, the more you're going to burn fat. And the more you're going to be able to consume that number that we got before of calories in versus calories out, you're going to have a higher number of calories out, which means you're going to be able to eat more food without putting on fat if you have more muscle mass, because muscle requires a lot of calories to maintain itself. So just keep that in mind. The more muscle you have, the higher your metabolism is going to be, and the more you're going to be able to burn calories. And the more you're going to be in a, let's call it a safe zone, where you can eat quite a few calories without putting on fat. I'm sure we all know people that are in pretty good shape and they don't lift weights. They are actually kind of somewhat sedentary, aside from, maybe walking. Maybe they like to go for hikes or whatever. But I know a lot of people that are in seemingly, like visually, pretty good shape, and they're actually pretty sedentary. They don't go for a lot of walks. They don't go for a lot of hikes. They don't lift weights. But if you just look at them, they look like they're pretty fit. Now, if that is your goal, just if that is your goal, just wanting to visually look kind of fit and slim, those are actually the only two things that you need to know. Calories in versus calories out, and let's make sure I'm getting enough protein. That's pretty much it. But as far as good health is concerned, and maybe you're wanting to not just be slim, but be decently muscular as well, then this third point is also for you. And I recommend, looking good is great. But if you want to look good and you want to feel good and you want to be strong and be actually really healthy, then this third point is very necessary. And I myself am somebody who lives by it. The third point is how to exercise. So this is probably the most complicated out of the three of them if you don't have any background in training. Now, obviously, you could exercise just by going for walks. You can walk 30 minutes to an hour per day, and that's actually a pretty decent amount of exercise that's going to keep you relatively healthy. But if you want to develop bigger muscles and be pretty strong and maintain those muscles into your old age, I highly recommend resistance training. Now, that can look like body weight training. It can look like weight training, anything where you're overcoming some kind of resistance. So the most popular form of resistance training is weightlifting. Now, weightlifting can be kind of intimidating, especially if you're going to a gym and you've never done it before and maybe you're not in the best shape yet. Resistance training can probably be kind of intimidating, but you don't have to start with very heavy weights. You can just start by getting a foundation, using light weights. It's actually better if you start with light weights, just to get your body and your nervous system ready to eventually be lifting heavier weights. But when I say you need to know how to resistance train, you need to understand movement patterns. So what exercises are targeting which muscle groups? And, that's actually pretty straightforward. I am assuming nobody is going to think a bench press is a leg exercise. That's a chest exercise. You're doing this, you could feel it in your chest and your triceps. But a lot of exercises can be kind of complicated, or they can look kind of complicated, and you don't know what the proper form is. So as far as how to exercise, how to resistance train, there's a ton of resources online for you to look at. You can actually just follow along with a full body at home workout. A lot of YouTubers make videos like that where you don't even really need any equipment. But of course, you can hire a professional to help you in a gym. You can hire a personal trainer as well. Or you can just self-study and really play around with this yourself. Now, what I highly recommend is make sure you have really good form, because if you don't have good form, and this is what I would say is the most intimidating part about weightlifting, is that you can get injured if you do not lift with proper form. And also, a recommendation that I have is leave your ego at the door. Don't be trying to lift very, very heavy weights. Don't be lifting weights that you can only lift if you compromise your form. Make sure you leave your ego at the door. You're in this to be healthy, not to break your body. So those are just some tips and recommendations I have about learning how to exercise properly. Now, I'm not going to be personally sharing the details of how to exercise properly in this video. I just wanted to share the only 3 things that you really need to know to get into proper shape. And like I said, if you just want to visually look like you're, slim and in good shape, then those first 2 things are really all you need to know. And I would say make sure you go for a 30-minute walk at least 5 times a week, and then you'll be visually in pretty good shape. But that third point of resistance training will definitely help you a lot if you can learn how to do that as well. So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, be sure to give it a like, subscribe to my channel for more content like this. I don't make a lot of this type of content. I do make content revolving around health, but that's usually psychological and mental health and self-improvement kind of content. But if you want to see more content like this about fitness, let me know, and I will definitely consider that. Let me know what kind of content that you guys want to see. I'm curious to hear that. So let me know that in the comments down below, and let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be glad to answer them. And yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one.